Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, from wherever you're joining us from. My name is Julia Oyiolo, and I'm the host of Next Level You. Today, I am here in Nairobi, Kenya, and I'd like to say Happy New Year to you all. I'm here with a special guest, and I had to look for her because she's my purpose coach. And I really appreciate her. And I really think that whatever she's doing is impacting generations. And so I thought I'd like to introduce her to you so that she can also introduce you to the conversation of purpose. And so I'd just like to welcome my purpose coach, Coach Irene. And maybe you could just introduce yourself for those who may not know you, but I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Julia. And I am honored to be on your podcast, and congratulations.
Thank you.
This is actually me seeing you live out some of the things you said you would do when you found your purpose during our purpose class. Yeah. So I think it's to first congratulate you.
Thank you.
And all those that are following you and listening to your content. The world needs a purpose movement. Yes. And I'm glad to be a purpose coach. Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, and for those who are connecting with me for the first time, my name is Irene Mureithi, the founder at Personal Development Institute, and we are actually turning 15 years in 2025.
Hey, wow.
An amazing 15 years of just helping people discover their purpose, but also helping them know how to package it so that they can influence others. And for those who like to make income out of it, we also help them do that.
Amazing.
Yes.
And congratulations, 15 years.
Thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. And really, I've read the stories, I've read the testimonies, the impact has been real. You know, you have really impacted not only individuals, but families, and as a result, generations, you know, and that's what God calls us to do. He's a God of generations. And so you're blessed because so many people, can point back and say, because Coach Irene, poured into my life, and I'm one of them. And that's why for me, this conversation is really important. And, you wrote this amazing book. Mm-hmm. So there's this book, and I encourage each of you to get it. But above all that, we'll be talking about also Purpose Class, which she mentioned that I took. But I would like to encourage you, if you're all there looking, it's January, and I'm sure you're thinking, why am I here?
Right.
What am I created to do? Mm-hmm. This is a question I have been on that journey with, and that's how I encountered Coach Irene and went through Purpose Class and DISC and began to understand who really I am and who God created me to be. Right. So, Coach Irene, where did you start this journey of purpose for yourself?
I think the journey starts at different seasons and different stages for all of us.
Okay.
For me, it is when I was working in the banking industry, Julia, and I had done already like 9 years. I was in operations, and I kept asking myself, is this all there is? I had the clarity of what I did not want to be.
Wow.
I was sure, having been in operations and observing it, having been a bank teller, I didn't want to grow and become a bank manager. Of course, not the CEO of the bank. I admired those people in those positions, but I was like, this is not me. So then the question was, who is me?
Yeah.
So, and sometimes people have clarity of what they don't want to be, but they don't have clarity of what they want to be.
Oh, that's profound.
Yes. And therefore, my journey started also by me looking out for a purpose coach. And allow me to mention his name,
yes,
Dr.
please.
John Stanko, who is a renowned purpose coach globally. He's based in the US, but he had come to Kenya at that point.
Okay.
And he was hosting several seminars. So I approached him and asked, can I have a one-to-one session with you? Which we did at the Hilton, Nairobi.
Nice.
And we had, that was my first professional coaching session.
Okay.
A whole 90 minutes. And he was charging $150, which I had not budgeted for. Remember, I was a banker.
Yes.
So I borrowed that money from the chama. The chama for our international clients, that's just like the merry-go-round within the bank. And I did my DISC assessment with Dr. Stanko. And that is when I discovered the path that I was going to take. And a coach doesn't tell you, he asks you. So I remember him asking me, what are you doing in the bank? And I knew he wasn't asking about my
Your
role,
job,
like my job.
Yeah.
But he could see I was misaligned. And Julia, do you know, I did not answer that question. Tears started just running down my face.
Wow.
Because I knew I was broken on the inside. But allow me to say, most people might think, were you not ungrateful? Were you not supposed to be thankful that you actually had a bank job? You had a salary. And I'm telling you, after 9 years, I was thankful, but at the same time, I was miserable.
Yes.
And there are many people this January who can identify with that. They're happy that God has given them a job to report back to or a business, but they know that that doesn't define them.
True.
Because it's not their life purpose. It's just a place where they engage and make some money.
Yeah.
And sometimes not make money.
That's true.
But they are looking for something deeper, something more meaningful.
There's this, I think it's this void that you kind of feel. I think this is what I had felt for a long time. I remember waking up one day in Geneva and saying, is this all there is to life? Just an emptiness. Yes, you have a job and you're going to this job like you're saying. So why am I empty? But it's because there's that God-given purpose in you that is probably not being fulfilled. Is that what you'd say that many of us are struggling with? Absolutely.
And that is why you hear people talking about the Monday blues. Because every Monday you come from the weekend, you are just doing fun activities, you're being yourself. And now you kind of have to take your body to a direction that your heart hates to go. And the fact that those are conversations you cannot have with your manager. You can't say, hello, boss, I have reported, but guess what? I don't like this job or I'm not enjoying it anymore. But deeply, many people are dissatisfied because they are looking for satisfaction more than they're even looking for money. So I think what most people need help with, and that's where you are, that's where I am, and many other people, even my purpose coach himself, Dr. Stanko, talks about pastoring, and he was feeling so unfulfilled, and especially if he had to go and conduct a funeral. So looking for the spark that inspires you and that which you would do, even if it's in the corporate world or in business or in ministry, or if you're supporting children, a cause, and money is not the first thing why you do what you do. Money becomes a byproduct. Yes.
You're really dropping some truth bombs here. Money is a byproduct of purpose.
Right.
But I'd just like to go back to that conversation. Don't you think employers could really, or is it HR or employers would maybe do employees a service if they really maybe interrogated or took people through maybe DISC? So people can be placed in the place where they are most passionate or most fulfilled. Instead of me who's maybe giving an example, I might be somebody who's very good with people, and then I'm being put in IT or something like that where I'm not really interacting with people. So I feel the Monday blues.
Absolutely. HR needs that shift, and many workplaces now need that shift, Julia, because I did not want to resign from the bank. Something I've talked about in my book. I actually went to HR in the bank where I was employed to ask, can I work in the L&D, the learning and development and training? Because I'm a people person. If you put me in operations as a teller, I get bored because my creativity is not finding expression. But of course, then there were reasons why I could not be transferred. And I remember walking from that conversation with our HR director at the bank, and it was at Upper Hill, and I had to go back to the branch in town where I was based. And through that walk, I told myself, if I can't be in the training department at this bank, then I'm going to start a training company.
Wow.
And that is partly now how PDI, Personal Development Institute, was birthed. Because I couldn't find it. Otherwise, I'd have been happy. And that is why we are saying, HR, you don't have to have a high staff turnover. Help people, because people want to work in structured places, and people also enjoy the stability of a monthly salary, but help them internally to find their sweet spot. Like you said, some people are task-oriented, so don't give them jobs and roles that are people-oriented.
Yeah.
Some people are people-oriented, so why put them behind a computer, the whole day? That way they will not be motivated. True. They will have low energy. And one of the tools that organizations can use to help people find their sweet spot is the DISC assessment. We've been invited to do this with certain companies here in Kenya, in Zimbabwe as well.
Okay.
And some companies, some churches have reorganized after the DISC assessment. Amazing. So that you don't lose your best talent. Exactly. If you can place them rightly within the organization.
Yeah. So I think it's a good conversation to have in January as people go back to work and people are thinking of New Year's resolutions. I don't believe in those, but yeah.
Yes.
I mean, being in PDI, TKC, has taught me it's beyond resolutions.
Absolutely.
It's about having a long-term vision and, for your life and for what God has called you to be.
Absolutely.
And I think these are the conversations that organizations need to start having.
Yes, and even before I forget, Julia, when we now look at the workforce, organizations are employing the Gen Zs, younger people.
Yes.
I have a Gen Z, he's 25. And I tell you what, they're not driven by money first. Unlike our parents and our generation, they are driven by passion, purpose. They want to feel the work they are doing. So organizations must align.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a conversation they need to have.
Yeah.
So your book, Embracing the Process, and you have alluded to the fact that it's not that all of a sudden that we discover this is who I am or this is what I'm called to do. So how do we embrace the journey of purpose?
That's a great question. And you just came back to, welcome home. It's good to actually have you home, yeah?
Thank you.
When you were deciding to come home, there was a process from Geneva to Nairobi. And that's the same thing, with the purpose journey. So like you had to first, I guess, identify the date, then book a ticket, etc. So once you have clarity of what your purpose journey is, then you begin to think about what's the vehicle or what's the platform that I'm going to use to express that purpose. For me, it's Personal Development Institute. Did I have that clarity immediately I did my DISC? No. Okay. I did my DISC assessment in 2007 March. I'll never forget.
Wow.
But I founded PDI in 2010. So you can see there was a journey of searching which platform am I going to use. So, and that is why we say it's a process. Then now there's been the 15 years. That's a whole journey.
A whole process.
A journey of success, Julia, but also a journey of failure. And I talk about it.
Yes.
A season where financially the institute wasn't doing well, but we thank God we didn't close the doors. But of course, we had very few number of people. And that season, you actually want to wake up and ask, what is PDI? Who are they again? What do they do? So it's part of the process. Then in 2020, by God's grace, during COVID, we decided to just go online and we entered a phase of success, both in terms of the number of people we are impacting, including you, who was taking the classes from Geneva and many other people. And that also meant now financial success. So it's a journey. It's a process. It's not an overnight thing. I guess it's like, I'm looking for an example. The same process of raising a child. Yes.
Yeah, so you start with the toddler stage, and infant, toddler, and you continue growing.
Absolutely. And it's also the same process for growing any business.
Yes.
There are very successful businesses in the world today, but they didn't become successful overnight.
True.
Yeah, so purpose is not a sensational thing. Yeah.
It's good you say that, because there's this thing of, we are finding our purpose. Is it finding or discovering? I think for me, it's more discovering. It's a discovery journey of what God has put inside of me.
Yeah.
Rather than finding it somewhere like it was lost. It was never lost. It's just that I need to find it. It's hidden.
It's hidden. Actually, if we were to now take the spiritual angle, it's like what the scripture says, the purposes of a man are like deep waters. So it's within you already. We come to this world when it's already predetermined by God. So you can, whatever word you use, find, discover. The most important thing is to have clarity of this is the reason I was born. This is my divine assignment. And words that people use interchangeably with purpose is also passion. Discovering this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yes. Is this the same thing as what we would say is your sweet spot or the ikigai? Because there are a lot of those things that people are reading the book on ikigai and sweet spot and all this. Is that the same thing? Like when I find my sweet spot is when I found my purpose.
Absolutely. We just use different terms and phrases depending on people's worldview, but it is the same thing. Your purpose is also your sweet spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So take us a little bit. You now had your session with Dr. Stanko.
Yeah.
You didn't resign immediately.
No, I did. On paper. We did the session at Hilton.
Yes.
I went home and I resigned on paper. Of course, I didn't hand in the resignation the next day. But what that did, it gave me the burden that I had carried for so long. I felt as though I had put the burden down because I had put it now on paper. Okay. I knew it was a matter of time before I hand over the resignation. Yes.
Wow. So how long did it take you?
I did the disc in March of 2007, and then I handed in my resignation in October of 2007. So how many months are those? Some few months. March to October.
Yeah.
But by the time I was handing that resignation, I had now developed even, what is it called? A letterhead for my organization. And it wasn't PDI. By then, what my mind could conceive was we were calling it the Born to Win Club. Oh, wow. Because I wanted people to know like they were born to win. And you begin by winning when you overcome the rat race of just being in this place that your body hates to go. Your spirit hates to go, So I resigned on that letterhead of Born to Win Club and I was feeling very achieved.
But it was an achievement.
It's a journey. That's why we are saying it's a journey.
It is.
And I used to host the club meetings at the Hilton. Sometimes we'd go to Brackenhurst and just be out there in the wild and do just team building. And then eventually, Dr. Emma Karari, who is a cardiologist and my co-founder at Personal Development Institute, started asking, will it always be a club? Or how else can this be? And that now led to us founding, she's my co-founder, Personal Development in 2010, April. So you can see that's why we are saying it's a journey.
It is.
And I think once you have clarity, because the clarity I had was I was born to unlock human capital, help other people find their purpose. Once you have that clarity, the journey is now discovering the platform, and people must allow themselves to keep changing.
Yes.
So we changed from Born to Win Club to Personal Development Institute. Okay. PDI has now given birth to the Kingdom Connect, So allow yourself.
The flexibility.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons people struggle with purpose is because they think they must have the A to Z as they are starting. And that's impossible.
Yeah.
Even God had to restart, with Noah.
Yes.
And again with Abraham.
Yeah.
Again with our Lord Jesus Christ. So give yourself a flexible plan.
I think that's freeing. In January, we have been set free to know that we can be flexible and it's not cast in stone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The mission remains the same, but the how is different in every season.
Okay.
Yeah. The same way maybe like when you're flying from Geneva to Nairobi, you make a stopover, there could be changes, you have to rebook. Those are things that happen.
Yeah.
There's a delay somewhere, but you still came to Nairobi. So people must know what's the end goal and where am I starting from, and then I'll be flexible in the process.
Yeah. Just as I was listening to you, I was just thinking about that scripture on write the vision. So yes, you had clarity because you had a clear vision. The bank is not where I'm called to be right now as a banker.
Yes.
But in unlocking human capital, this is me. And then now you knew that I needed to be in training and, unlocking people's potential. So you needed to work backwards.
Absolutely.
So that was the end goal.
Yeah.
And that's how now slowly through the process, now PDI, Born to Win, then PDI. And I think also just reflecting on that scripture, it says that write the vision and make it clear so that everyone who sees, and then I just thought about Dr. Karari.
Yes.
She was there and she was like, is this all it's going to be?
And for her, as you're saying the scripture of write down the vision so that he who reads can run with it, she was also looking, being a very successful doctor, she had gotten to a point where she thought, why isn't the mathing financially for me as an A student and a doctor? And so she had started exploring personal development. Okay. But now when she found somebody with a vision, she then said, because I have busy schedules, I actually don't have to start it. You run it and I will plug in. And for the last 15 years, by God's grace, together with Dr. Emma and other facilitators in our community, we have helped many people.
Yes, you sure have. And I'm a beneficiary and I'm so grateful.
And allow me to also say what you alluded to earlier. Let people write down their vision instead of New Year resolutions.
True.
Yeah, because you tend to forget those New Year resolutions by March.
Yeah.
So write your vision down and then develop a strategic plan. It can be a 5-year strategic plan, but of course you will have your immediate goals, your mid-term goals, and your long-term goals. That's a more practical way to achieve New Year goals.
Yeah,
yes,
true.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling that you can't do that on your own, PDI is there to assist. I think we have a course on that, right?
Yes, we do. And that's why we have coaches. That's why we have mentors, people that can help you, professionals.
Yes.
And please don't just go to somebody because they say on their social media, I'm a coach.
Yes.
Ask, are they a certified coach? Even if they're not, well, I would recommend certified coaches, but do they have the experience? Have they guided others successfully to have results?
True.
So that you don't say, oh, coaching doesn't work, and you probably went to a coach who doesn't have experience or is not trained, so they don't even know how to guide you to ask you the right question, because coaching is actually about asking people questions, powerful questions. It's not about telling them. Dr. Stanko never told me quit the bank. Yes. But he asked me, what are you doing in the bank? So that sent me to a place of deep reflection. And that is why I was crying.
Ah, yes.
So let people work with certified coaches. Yeah.
I was just sharing with Njeri, and I think I've shared this story a number of times since it happened. I think it was in a TKC business. And one of the questions you asked us, and that goes back to the powerful question and the importance of having coaches, certified coaches. You asked us, why haven't you done what God has called you to do?
Right.
And then we're put in breakout rooms.
Yeah.
And, as we discussed, I would say 90% of the people, it was fear. Fear of what people would say, fear of failure, all this fear of rejection and everything. And I remember when we came back to plenary, and the one question you asked, maybe it didn't hit other people, but that question is what set me on this path.
Oh, wow.
You asked, so when you meet your savior, your maker, is that the excuse you're going to give him?
Like, are you going to tell him,
I was afraid.
God, I didn't do this because I was afraid I'll be judged, You
can never know how that one statement you made impacted me so much that it really pushed me out of my comfort zone. Yeah. So as much as I'd done purpose class and I knew this is the direction I want to go, there was still that fear, what will people say? What if I fail?
Right.
But the minute you said that, and it wasn't even on a one-to-one coaching, it was just in TKC business.
Yes, virtual class.
Yes, a virtual class.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's right. What will I say when I meet Jesus?
Absolutely, because we cannot tell him we were afraid, given that the word of God already tells us he has not given us a spirit of fear. So all those things, and I've listened to people, Julia, in the last 15 years, I would summarize it as self-sabotage. There's so many things that people are afraid of that don't count in eternity.
They don't.
Yeah. So
That's
you've
painful.
got to, it's January, please arise and put yourself together. And I'm saying this to the listener, and just pursue the reason that God created you. You can't live life just for bread. And bread just means provision. There's got to be
More
a
than
bigger...
that.
a bigger and a deeper reason as to why God has given you life, and also as to why you're still alive. Many people have transitioned to the other world, to the next world. So please arise and find your purpose.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes, you've heard the coach. So, we talked about this fear of failure.
Yeah.
And we know that on this journey of purpose, it's not always success.
Yeah.
So 15 years, I know it's not always been success.
Yeah.
Can you share some of the challenges that you've experienced, on your purpose journey? And how can we, embrace this failure thing? Because many of us are afraid to fail.
Yeah.
So we don't even start.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there are a few people that are afraid to succeed. They know they can succeed so much, so that fear holds them back. But the majority of us are afraid of failure. And failing, I did. Yeah. Failing, I did. So, and I love what John Maxwell calls fail forward. I had not even read his book until I failed. And I want to recommend that book to people who are afraid of failing, so that they know that there is a concept where you can fail forward. Because that's what exactly has happened to me from that season where I failed financially. So what happened is, as PDI was growing, we expanded. We had an office in Mombasa, in Nyali.
Wow.
We moved from Yaya Center in Nairobi to Karen, the leafy suburbs.
The leafy suburbs.
But when I look at it, it's because I really wanted to give people the very best.
Yes.
Like, I really enjoyed it's about 2 or 3 years we were in Karen, where people had beautiful gardens, as they did the classes. But financially, it was not viable.
Okay.
At some point, when the number of students dropped, it meant that we were now behind with bills. And I also had many staff. I always tell people I had hired the best, a CPAK, accountant.
Wow.
And a HR manager, So a time came when I couldn't afford to pay them, the organization. So that was the greatest failure. And of course, being judged by my own student, I said that bit quite hard, because they were saying, what she was teaching us is now not working for her.
Oh, wow.
They didn't realize maybe it was a season. I was also learning.
Yes.
I could have been very passionate about purpose, but I was not a seasoned entrepreneur. Now I believe I'm a better entrepreneur. So that is what I can say was the biggest season of failure. And having to relocate from Karen, not just the business, but even I and my son, and back to Eastlands, it looked like a sentence of, you will never overcome poverty. You're back to Eastlands. But right now, by the grace of God, we are developing beautiful homes in Naivasha. So we are creating our own leafy suburbs. Amen. So people must embrace the fears and the failure that come in the purpose journey, and you keep your focus and the eyes on the goal.
Yeah. Keep focus is the important thing.
And I've talked a lot about my failure, and also Dr. Stanko, because we've co-authored the Purpose book with my coach. So please get the book and read and learn from us, because those seasons do come. Even Jesus, when he was on the cross, that didn't look like a successful face.
Not
in fact,
all.
there were those who mocked him and said, you saved others.
Save yourself.
Save yourself. So those seasons will come in purpose.
Well, I think it's
but
a season we don't look
he's
forward
the King
to.
of Kings.
He is.
And,
and he won the victory ultimately.
Absolutely.
And you too, you bounce back.
I thank God. I thank God. I'm in a season where we are impacting a lot and globally.
Yes.
And thank you for being part of the Kenyans in the diaspora who are now in our community. And Julia, I must also say, sometimes people feel very inspired by, like, I'm your purpose coach, but we also get inspired when we see the people we are coaching making strides. So, like, being on this podcast is a real blessing.
Amen.
And when you flew from Geneva to come for the TKC Business Club and even MC the event, that meant so much to me. So I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Coach.
Yes.
I never stop saying it to those who I've met and who I talk about TKC and PTI with. I think for me, it was a God connection. And I never met you, but I saw you on Facebook. I don't even know who tagged you.
Yeah.
But I remember you were doing a Facebook Live. And one of the things you had said was, I think it's your scripture, Christ in me, the hope of glory.
Right.
And the way you shared that message, it was so simple, but so impactful. I said, I don't know who this lady is, but I must follow her. And I was just following your messages, and then you announced TKC. And from then on, I was like, TKC.
Yeah.
And I've been there. I think it's now 3 years that I've been part of TKC.
And you have signed for every program that has come. But we must also let people know that it's not just been about signing for programs. No. There's been impact.
Yes.
And there's also been income.
Yes.
So people are able to find who they are and pack it themselves. So it's a win-win.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Papa's relationship.
It is. And you talk a lot about collaboration.
Right.
Because we cannot make it on this journey alone.
Absolutely.
You had your purpose coach as well. And I read that he's been very supportive to you on your journey. In your book, I read about a dear father to you.
Yes.
Who you talk about, who also supported you quite a bit in your low season.
The late Dr. Magaria.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so a purpose is not a journey that you do on your own.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important that people realize the importance of collaboration.
Collaboration and community.
Yes.
Yeah. Where there are people cheering you, holding you accountable, but also encouraging you. So as you said, my coach, Dr. John Stanko, he's supported me for the last 16 years.
Wow.
And then I have my mentor, Sally, coach. She's also a coach Sally Mahiu, who has supported me in the last 19 years.
Wow.
She was the one I was going to when I would feel the heat of, I want to resign from the bank. And she would say, not yet. And then she would say, when it's the time to resign, you won't even come to check with me. And for sure, when I now met Dr. Stanko and I was guided, I didn't have to go back and check with Coach Sally Mahiu. Yeah. So you need people to support you.
Yeah.
And especially, let me say, strangers, because family love you too much and they think you're just being crazy. Like my mom was like, who resigns from a bank job and you're only 33 years young? Are you out of your mind? So I needed other people who could understand what my beloved mother was not understanding. Because I was trying to explain to her what I'll be doing. Like, Mom, I'll go speak to people. And then she was like, who doesn't speak? We speak all the time here in the village. She was in the village, Nakuru, and no one pays us.
Wow.
So later on, when I started getting training opportunities with then the Barclays Bank, I remember one time asking the bank branch manager in Nakuru, could you allow my mom to come and sit at the back of the room so that she can see what I do? Wow. And as we walked out, I was also given a check, which was bigger than what my monthly salary used to be at the bank. So Mom could now practically see what it means to talk to people.
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of corporate training.
Okay.
And of course, with time, it has evolved to just, being called as a keynote speaker. And sometimes what I get paid in an hour is a lot more than I was getting paid
in the bank.
In the bank, yeah. So she's able to understand it. So, and I'm saying this because there are people who feel frustrated or are afraid. How will they communicate to their parents that they want to resign from a certain job? Like even for you, Julia, I mean, somebody thinking, oh, she's feeling unfulfilled and she's in Geneva. For us here at home in Kenya, Maju, we all want to go Mahiu, Switzerland. So how can she be feeling unfulfilled? Isn't she being ungrateful? So these are the kind of conversations that we need to set people free. Because mostly your parents, your brothers, your sisters, they love you. And they may seem like they're not supporting you. Even my sister in the US initially didn't seem like she was supporting me.
Okay.
But they're just being careful.
Yeah.
They want to be sure, will this thing work?
Yes.
Will this purpose put food on the table?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Kikiumana, but anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you raised an important thing about family, but I would like to bring in the issue of children. And that many times parents don't understand when we want to resign from this, what they call those, A jobs. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a this. And they don't understand what is this other thing you want to do. But how do we speak to parents now who have children, maybe it's the Gen Zs or the Gen Alphas, who now are pursuing passion, not money?
Yeah. I actually had a parent talk to me about her child who is an engineer. So he's gone to school, he's an A student, he graduated as an engineer, but it's not what he's doing today. So one of the things that parents can do, especially parents of the younger children, allow them to do like the DISC assessment. We have the DISC assessment for children from the age of 9 to 13, so that you can begin to understand their purpose and their personality at an early age and shape them. And that applies also for the Gen Zs. We invest a lot in academic education, and I'm a firm believer in academic education, but we also need to combine it with personal development education so that people can discover themselves.
True.
Yeah.
I think we focus so much in this country on academics.
Yes.
And I think in our generation, I always keep feeling I learned these things so late. But, I'm like, how come I never knew all these things? I mean, the things that we've learned in TKC, in PDI, in the business class, and I'm like, why didn't anybody teach us these things when we were growing up?
Absolutely. And even as a banker, some of the things I'm now learning, Julia, in my late 40s, 50s now, I'm like, why didn't anyone tell me when I was 22? At Personal Development Institute, we have a program for high school leavers. And they're now sitting at the investment table at Nabo Capital with us. And that gives me so much joy. When they're investing $1,000, I could be investing $10,000. They're investing $1,000. And I'm like, I'm so happy that at 22, someone can be at the investment table. Because at 22 is when I got employed in the banking industry. But no one taught me about investment. I think people assume that you will generally learn how to save and invest, but it's not a natural for everyone.
No, it's not.
Some of us have wasted so much time.
Don't even say it. We should whisper.
We should whisper. We need therapy.
We do.
Yeah, because no one taught us these things. But we thank God that now at Personal Development Institute, we have programs for children all the way from, and they are virtual. Your children were doing some classes in Geneva with us, and other parents in the US, Nigeria, So we have now these classes that children can do from the comfort of your home parents. So give them to us. Give us your teenagers, your children, your teenagers, your Gen Zs, your young adults. Let's allow them to work with us. And we are happy to mentor them and also to coach them.
Amazing. Yeah, and I've been a beneficiary. My children did the DISC.
Yes.
Yeah, and for me, it was just spot on when I looked at the assessments and what they are as people. Like the youngest, I was like, I received the assessment from DISC and I saw his report card. I was like, it's very true. Because
from school.
Yeah. The influencer, the people person. And when I look at the DISC, it's exactly that.
Yeah.
And so for me, I didn't struggle. So when I see him in that kind of a way, I used to wonder, this kid is always been invited for all the birthdays, my pocket, But then I came to realize that he's just this kind of person who likes people.
Yeah.
Who's always been invited everywhere. So he's very influential.
Is that Ethan?
Yeah, Ethan, yes.
Oh, Ethan, yeah.
So for me, it was just a confirmation that it's something that I always wanted to do for them. And now that I had the opportunity through PDI, I think it's something that parents should invest in.
Every parent should invest in doing the DISC assessment for their children.
They should,
and even for us as adults, invest in yourself.
True.
DISC assessment is why I'm seated here today.
Yes.
Because when I did it, it showed from my report that one of the top 5 of the things I could do is become a coach. Wow. Then that led me to now thinking, how do I resign from the bank? I had a mortgage. How do I settle that? Because I didn't want to leave the bank with a big debt and then the bank keeps following me. So I'm a beneficiary of DISC. I would actually say the whole of Personal Development Institute, by the grace of God, is founded on the self-awareness I gained when I did the DISC assessment.
Yeah.
So it works.
It does.
Yes.
I'm a beneficiary.
And there is a return on investment.
There is.
Yes.
I mean, over the last 15 years, I'm sure there has been.
Yes.
But let's talk about investing in yourself, because I see this is a thing that people struggle with when it comes to personal development. And we can tell them, okay, yes, there's DISC and there's Purpose Class and Secret Brilliance. But I see the challenge that people find it very hard to invest in a coach. I don't know, is this a mindset thing or is it,
In fact, it's something I'd like the listeners and the viewers to tell us. So if we can get that feedback, it would be important to know, because people don't struggle to invest in academic education.
No, they don't.
Julia, Kenyans, they will take a loan to go and do their MBA and their PhDs. But no one will take a loan, for example, to come and do their advanced increased income classes, So I think it's a mindset because we were cultured, so many vijana.
Yes.
Like we were cultured that the success will come through academics, and there's a place for that, but there's also a place for mindset change that ushers us into success.
True.
Yeah.
So
people need to invest in personal development. I remember I've mentioned about the beautiful homes we are building in Naivasha. And while I was still in the bank in 2006, even before I did the DISC, I took a course at Trump University.
Wow.
And I know some people say, oh, it was a scam. Whether it was a scam or not, I remember taking a loan from the SACCO, $300,000. That's about $3,000. And that was my first ever online course in 2006. And they taught us about real estate and entrepreneurship. So when I look at what we are doing, the beautiful homes we are developing, I always say President Trump contributed to that because of what they taught us in that class. So had I not invested, maybe my mind would have been aligned to taking that 300,000 or more for a car loan. Yes. But they taught us that those were like toys and that those are things you should buy from your assets. They taught us to buy and to invest in real estate and things like that. So it pays.
It does.
Yes.
And see you now.
Yeah.
A beautiful estate.
So I guess, like you said, one of the reasons people don't invest in personal development is a mindset. So we need a mindset shift so that you begin to see what education can actually propel me to success. And especially if you already have your degree or your college certificate diplomas and you're still struggling in the rat race. Yeah.
Oh, this rat race, man.
The financial rat race. And on top of that, apart from struggling, you are also unfulfilled because you're not in your purpose.
Yes.
So the money is not enough. That's a pain point. And the other pain point is the Monday blues.
Yeah.
Every day, every week, going to a place that your heart hates to go.
That's, I think, very torturesome.
Yes. It's a double pain.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think I experienced that. But there's something to say for those who are employed and want to continue being employed, but executing their purpose. I think for me, I would say that since I did Purpose Class and DISC and been involved a lot in the classes for PDI, it's helped me find more fulfillment at work, actually.
Yes. I get a lot of those testimonials. So not everybody needs to resign. In fact, some people just need to be engaged in their purpose part-time.
Yes.
So they find that joy and that energy doing the things they love to do. And that makes them more productive in their everyday job. Yeah, I think for me, I'm a beneficiary of that, because sometimes you think, should I resign? But you're saying, you feel that it's not the right time. Yes.
But then I get a lot of fulfillment, like starting the podcast.
Absolutely.
And, doing a bit of training here and there, like some talks, on, self-sabotage and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Gives me fulfillment and gives me the boost to continue working.
And it's not in conflict with your job. But then you also have an employer who supports that.
Yes, yeah.
Because some employers can be terrorists. So please, employers, don't terrorize your people.
True.
Some of them is their passion. Like today, I've met so many TKC members who've written different books. When I wrote my first book, Celebrate the Hard Times, in 2005, I was still a bank employee. And I remember writing an email to the HR again, because my colleagues were like, oh, if you write a book, you'll be fired. And I thought, the bank is not in the business of writing books. If I open a microfinance, there's conflict of interest, you know. So sometimes people are afraid. And so HR clarified that, no, you cannot lose your job because of writing a book. Just make sure you don't mention the name of the bank, you know. So sometimes it's also fears that we have that we need to interrogate. It's not that all employers are terrorists, but then there are those who have also inculcated such cultures of fears, you know, a culture of fear at the workplace that someone can't even do something and yet it's outside of their work time.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody likes to design, is a graphic designer. So give them that flexibility that in their free time
they can do that.
They can do that. Maybe some it's poetry, some it's baking, some it's sports. So allow people to live. Yeah.
And anyway, work is 8 hours a day.
Yes.
So the rest of the time, what are you doing?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's both, there's a place for the employer, but there's also the place for personal responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah. And let me also say, your employer is not responsible for you living out your life purpose and maximizing your potential. So don't hold them and become bitter.
Yes.
The government is also not responsible. Your pastor is not responsible. Even your parents are not. So when it comes to, did you live out your life purpose? Squarely, it falls on you.
Wow.
And that is why every one of us shall give an account to God. It's not a mob. It's not a group think.
It's individual.
It's individual.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, some people are so enabled. Their employers give them the flexibility, but the self-sabotage is within.
Yes. So that stops them.
Some even blame us as coaches. Oh, I paid and I'm not seeing results. The question is, did you implement?
Yeah, that's the serious question. Implementation.
And not just implementation. You know, at PDI, we teach about SOI, the speed of implementation. Like, it's been how many years since you did your purpose class? You're already doing your podcast.
Yeah.
You've launched a book.
Yes.
Well done.
Thank you.
So we can see the speed of implementation. Because what happens if you don't implement, you feel there's a bit of lethargy and loss of time. So when you want to pick yourself up again, it's 10 years later. You've probably even forgotten what your purpose was all about. Yes.
It's true.
Yeah.
You mentioned an interesting word which I saw in the book. You mentioned terrorists, and I read in the book about financial terrorism.
Yes.
Can you please elaborate what financial terrorism is?
That's a phrase that was introduced to me by my purpose coach, Dr. John Stanko, because he came to Kenya in a season where now PDI was going through a financial crisis. He really used to celebrate me. So when we were in Karen, he would bring visitors from the US and they would always pass by Karen to say hello. We would host them for lunch. But now this time he came and we were in the middle of moving. We needed to move from Karen and I didn't even know we are moving to where, you know. And so he told me, Irene, if the devil can't keep you out of purpose, he will use financial terrorism.
Wow.
To discourage you from pursuing your purpose. And thank you, Dr. Stanko. He left me with $1,000 in that visit, which to me was like 1 billion shillings, because I was at a place where we were in the red financially. And then the other person that God used so well, and may he rest in peace, was Dr. Mageria. He literally took me to his bank physically in Karen and asked me, how much are you in the red? I was like, Kenya shillings, 2 million. That's about what? 20,000 USD?
About
20,000 USD. And he credited that money in my account and said, my daughter, I believe in you. I believe in your purpose. You will transform many people's lives, but you need to learn how to do business. So finding people that help you. But that financial terrorism is actually the reason many people are not in their purpose. Because some are like, I know I can resign, but how will I pay my rent?
Yes.
How will I pay school fees? So, and that is why currently what we are doing in partnership with Nabo Capital is to help people even learn how they can earn passive income, so that they can then have this money to enable them be in purpose. But it's not an overnight thing.
No.
So you need to be trained, and you need to start your investment journey slowly but surely.
Yeah.
We have so many people in TKC Business Club right now who are enjoying some passive income. Yeah. So they can begin to focus on their purpose more.
That's very true.
Without forever feeling harassed financially. So the financial terrorism.
Yes. I love that phrase.
Yeah.
And just, the it's so profound when you say that if the devil cannot keep you from purpose, he'll use financial terrorism to keep you away from it. Yeah. And it's so true. When I reflect on not only my life, but many people I see who are not living out purpose, the only thing would be, finances.
And that is why I will give this question free of charge, although we ask it in the paid purpose class.
Yeah.
And the reason we ask that question is to help people overcome the mindset of that financial terrorism. And the question, Julia, is if you had all the money. Because many people don't allow themselves to even go there. Thinking is free.
Yes, it is.
Imagining is free, and also praying is free. So one of the questions we ask people is, if you had all the money and all the other factors of production in place, what would you do? Because a lot of people are afraid without even answering that question. Yeah.
True, it's good to look at it on the other side.
Yes.
What would I do if I had
So
all the
supposing you
resources?
had all the money, or supposing you woke up tomorrow and you were credited with $1 billion. So what would you do?
Yes.
Because some people don't have a plan. They don't have a vision. Julia, if today I'm given $1 billion,
you know to the last coin what you will do.
I've held on to a strategic plan for the last 10 years. I would know what to do with that money. And I'm not exaggerating. Yeah. So maybe there's someone out there who will give it to me.
Yes. I hope you're listening. But it goes back to the importance of having that strategic vision.
Yes.
And I think I read in one of Apostle Tommy's books that's actually one of the exercise he gives, that if you have $1,000, write down to the last coin what you do.
Yes.
And then if you have $1 million, write down exactly how you're going to spend that money.
Yeah.
Because when it comes and you have no plan,
right,
you will just end up being terrorized again financially.
Absolutely. And I believe that probably that is why it also never comes.
True.
Because God checks on our stewardship levels, our growth levels. So if you are given that $1 billion or even 1 billion shillings, about $8 million, would it destroy you? Do you have a plan? What would you do with it? So there are many things
factors,
that we need to unpack where mindset and money makeover is concerned, and also the whole subject of purpose. When I speak, especially in churches, even some organization, everybody wants to know their purpose, but nobody wants to spend $1,000 or thereabout discovering it and having the strategies so that you can plan.
Yes.
Yeah. And even plan the money factor and allow yourself that space of thinking. So if I had all the money, what would I do? Yeah.
But it goes back to also a class that we did about thinking.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I think, we think at thinking, but we think.
Yes.
But do we really?
Yes, at PDI, one of the programs we've offered for the last 11 years is a program called Think, Shift and Change, where we teach 11 thinking skills, because thinking can be taught.
It can, yeah.
The same way we are now teaching AI, or you go to a school and you're taught how to drive. We can be taught to be better thinkers. So that's why we are saying there's quite a bit. When we say mindset shift, there's quite a bit because we explore strategic thinking, questioning popular thinking. And we've had such amazing testimonials. I'm sure you met Dr. Ruth Mothei. I can mention her. Yeah. Actually, Dr. Ruth had taught in one of our universities here in Kenya for many years. And through that course, she found her other passion and became a certified ICF coach and is running a business on the side of coaching. Then we have someone like Mr. Peterson Marira who had this burden of a debt, 15 million Kenya shillings. And through the thinking classes, he was able to see a way out pay that entire 15 debt and go on to build other successful businesses. So thinking can be taught.
It can be taught.
So we probably need to introduce the younger people
Yes.
to the thinking classes.
We do.
Because sometimes even when you look like at what happened here in Kenya with the Gen Zs, yes, you can see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
But we want to ask, are they being strategic enough so that they're not being used by anyone? So, and that is where strategic thinking comes in.
Yeah.
And other thinking skills that you will encounter when you come to class.
Yeah. So I think we're giving you really, there's a lot to purpose than just, discovering your purpose. And this is it, voila, I'm here.
Right.
No, there's a lot that goes, and that's, I think, why we call it embracing the process.
Yes.
Because, mindset has to shift. And another word that came is build capacity.
Yes.
When you're talking about, exactly how much you'll spend $1 billion on.
Yes.
It's because you also have the capacity. Over time, you've built that capacity and the understanding of how you're going to use these resources, what these resources are for.
Yeah.
But if you're just given that and you have not built the capacity in terms of financial understanding, in terms of your mindset, in terms of your thinking, it's very hard to, for God just to give you that billion, because he's like...
Absolutely. And also other skills that we teach in different classes like TRM, the Transformed and Renewed Mind, we help you to begin to think about your emotional intelligence. We are seeing brands here in Kenya that are successful. So they got the money part, but because of how they're handling their domes, what is domes? For your international community.
Goodness, domes are what?
Just the emotional issues, handling them so badly online, that can put the business at risk.
It can,
So we also help you to focus on other things like social intelligence. I've said I've worked with my coaches 16 years, 19 years. So we need social capital.
We do.
But we also need spiritual capital. So some of the things we teach, Julia, include spiritual intelligence and helping you understand the kingdom of God as opposed to religion.
Yes.
So there are many, many things that you need while in purpose.
Yes.
And it takes me back to what our foundation is at PDI, the scripture in Romans where it says, be transformed by the renewal of your mind.
Yeah.
The renewal of your mind is a process.
It is.
People think it's just voila. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's a whole investment that takes a lot of time to shift your way of thinking.
It does.
Yeah, for those who have read Who Moved My Cheese,
yes,
another book that I recommend. Every time I speak, I really recommend many books, Who Moved My Cheese. You'll notice it's also an issue of mindset.
It is.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as we wind down this conversation, you wrote a book. Your first book was Celebrate the Hard Times.
Yes.
Man, how do you celebrate the hard times?
I was either going to celebrate the hard times or I was going to drown in depression. So I was going through a hard time emotionally. I was engaged, so I was to get married. As I've always said, and many people have heard this before, 5 goats lost their lives to that ceremony, dowry payment and all that. And then he was a no-show. We didn't walk to the altar. And at the same time in that season, I had won the green card. And how many people win it? I mean, it's just lottery. So to win and then go through the process and finally go to the American embassy and be denied a visa. First of all, I thought it's green card, it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
So I was going through such a difficult time because the engagement had collapsed. Now my dreams for going to the US were shattered. And I remember at that point going to church and just thinking, God, why am I even a church girl? Why have I even waited on you trying to do the things the right way? And I just remember, being told by my spiritual authority, Reverend Teresa Wairimo, as you seek God, he will speak to you. And when I sought God in prayer, he spoke to me and inspired me to write that book, Celebrate the Hard Times. And the rest is history.
Yes.
I have since written other 5 books.
Wow. Yeah. Congratulations,
Thank
Coach.
you. Yeah.
It's been such a delight as we wind up.
Thank you.
To have you here. It's been an amazing conversation.
Yes.
Thank you for making the time to be here.
Thank you for hosting me.
Yeah, karibu sana.
Yes.
And to our viewers, Coach Irene is available on the Personal Development Institute. You can find her online, also on Facebook, very active.
Right.
So always reach out to her if you want to register for any of the courses. Please pick up a book. It is available on Amazon as well, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So it's shipped through Amazon to any part in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So please also pick up a book. If you are not ready to invest right now on $1,000, it's $1,000 for the purpose class.
1,500.
1,500.
Because it includes the disc assessments.
Yeah. So I encourage you to do purpose class in the disc. And also, but if you can't start on the 1,500, you can start here.
With the book.
Right. And build yourself up, but always invest in yourself. It's the
Yes.
biggest investment that you can do and the best.
Right.
So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on Next Level You. We look forward to hosting you another time, Coach Irene.
Thank you.
And yes, and having you again, our dear listeners from wherever you are, wishing you a blessed and a happy 2025. May you go on and find clarity to pursue your purpose. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.